Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PhotoBiz Live. This is Joanne from the PhotoBiz team. Today we're being joined by Hiram Trillo for a webinar about destination weddings. In this webinar, Hiram will explore some of the unique challenges of destination weddings. Backed by popular demand, he'll provide insights about what you need to travel, the wedding coverage itself, and even how to deal with local planners. In addition to getting the opportunity to learn from Hiram in today's webinar, he's going to actually hold his question and answer session during the webinar. You can submit your questions using the chat tool. We'll pass them along to Hiram and he'll be able to answer them for you. You can also join in the discussion on Twitter if you like by using the hashtag #PhotobizLive. If at any point during today's webinar you have any difficulty hearing the speaker or seeing the slides, you can use the comment box to let us know. We'll also be recording the webinar, and it'll be available for replay on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/photobiz. With that being said, I'll turn things over to Hiram.
Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing good. Thanks again, PhotoBiz, for letting me be here and sharing with you guys. We had a little bit of a mishap earlier today, so we're kind of going to wing it. I had one of my computers crash, and it's the computer that I actually hold the majority of my webinars on. And, you know, like a good photographer I am, I didn't back up my slides. So with that said, the one thing that I did want to do anyways in this webinar, which is not going to affect much, is I wanted to answer the questions. I've had a lot of people that have contacted me asking about, you know, from permits to visas, how to travel and stuff like that. So I thought that it would be a better way to do it would be to make this as interactive as possible. You know, like I said, it's a little difficult sometimes, just kind of looking at a screen or whatnot, and just talking to good old internets there, but we'll make the best of it. And like I said, this is not going to be, you know, hold your questions until the end. If you have a question, please type it up. You know, Jen it's going to read those out to me, and I will answer those as best as I can. I'm here for you guys. And again, thank you very much. I'm going to show you really quick a few of the things that we're going to be kind of talking about, and then we'll kind of go from there. Today we'll be discussing, you know, a little bit about forms, some of the forms that I currently use when I travel. You know, anything from the declaration forms to the forms where I kind of register my equipment in the U.S. before I leave outside of the States. We're also going to be talking about things to look for. We're going to kind of go over a little bit of some of the stuff that we did on the last webinar, kind of to refresh some ideas. If you haven't seen the other one, you know, go to the PhotoBiz YouTube channel. It's the whole thing is there, and then see if some of the questions will be answered there, and if not, you know, ask away here. So there's no time limit. Well, for me at least, they're not. I don't know if the PhotoBiz guys are gonna like that, but hey, you know, I'm here for you guys. So with that, let's get started. Some of the things that I use, the first things before anything else I do is are the forms that I use. Can you guys see my screen?
You can go ahead and raise your hand if you can't see the screen, and then I'll let Hiram know.
Okay, looks like if you can't, just let us know. Anyways, so forms that I use. This is the primary form that I use. This is where this is my registration of personal stuff. Basically, this is where I put in this little area right here, which is a description of articles. This is where I put the equipment that I'm taking. I will write down my the type of camera that I'm taking, or lens, or battery, or whatever. I have about 12 of these. That doesn't mean that I take that much equipment. It just means that, well, my handwriting is terrible and I can't fit all of my equipment in this area. But I have 12 sheets of these stapled together. I have them in a little folder, and I put that in my case with where I take my equipment. What I do is I put a description of the article. Basically, it's, you know, 5D Mark III, 1DX, whatever it is, and put the brand. So it would be Canon 5D Mark III, and then I put the number. Number is very, 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 the serial number is very important. That way they know that what you're taking out is the same camera you're coming in with. They don't always check, but it's good to have it in there. What you do with all of these is basically when you get to the airport, you go to customs, and you get somebody here, for example, when I leave from DFW, they're going to put DFW airport, they're going to put the date, and then they're going to put, the official's going to sign right here. So that basically they checked that you, now you're not always going to need this. I learned this one the hard way. I was coming back from Asia, and Canon has some factories in Thailand and such. And on the way back, since I didn't have a registration, I had to pay taxes because I couldn't prove that I had not purchased these equipment overseas. So, with that said, I understood that this was the best way to do it. They told me about this, and from then on, I've used it. I use it with every trip. I just don't want to risk it, and I don't want to pay any more than I have to. So by doing this, it takes a couple of extra little, more time, excuse me, to do this, but it's completely worth it. So instead of arriving to the airport, which we're going to talk a little bit later about that, is instead of arriving at the airport, 2 hours before, I arrive about 3 hours before to make sure that I get all of the stuff. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time, and we're going to discuss a little bit about that as we go. So like I said, so this is the certificate of registration. This is, for the stuff that you're going to take a lot, and on the way back, if they ask you any questions, whatever, well, you have proof that you have that equipment when you came back. So that's one. Second one, this is the customs declaration forms. Every country has this one. This is the one from Mexico. It's the one that I could pull up really quick to pull up, but most of them are similar to this. They're going to ask you pretty much the same stuff. You have professional equipment. How many people are traveling with you? Where are you coming? Air, land, any of that stuff. This is the most important part when you get in there. In this little area right here where it says professional equipment, make sure you mark yes. Always mark yes. That is the most important thing. Now, it doesn't matter if you're going for, I've done it, I do this when I go for vacation, I do this when I go for a wedding, whatever it is, always check professional equipment because it is professional equipment that you're taking. If not, they will ask you, they will pull you off to the side, and that's where some of the troubles can begin. So make sure that you declare what you have. You're not doing anything wrong, so make sure that you declare everything. Most of them are going to ask you this right here about where you're staying, your destination, and all that stuff. If you have it, go for it. Most of the time, you don't have to be too specific. You can give a hotel name. You don't have to give the exact address as long as you have the hotel name and where the thing is the city that you're going to stay in. So this is the declaration form. Make sure you fill it completely and be completely honest. These are the first two things that you need to do. You can actually print this out, and I have links to both of these. This one, the declaration form for the Mexico one, but you can go to any website for any consulate. You can and you can actually download the forms before you go if you don't want to fill them out there and have them all filled out before you even get there. So I have links to the Mexico and this one on the blog that I wrote for PhotoBiz a while back, and I'm sure PhotoBiz can put that link up. If not, let me know and I'll find it and I'll send it to you guys. It's not a big deal. So forms. One of the good things to start off with is make sure that you have this stuff filled out. Now, what is a destination wedding? Well, a destination wedding is something that's outside of your city. Now, this doesn't mean that just because it's within the States is not a destination wedding. Absolutely not. I consider a destination wedding anything that is 50 miles or more outside of where I live. So I have the DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So anything 50 miles or more on that, to me, it's a destination wedding, and I charge it as such. There are different pricings for destination weddings within the States and then destination weddings abroad. Just because, well, some of them I can drive to and some of them I will have to fly. So that's kind of up to you. And we can discuss this a little bit more as we go on through this. So what to look for when you go on a destination? Well, obviously, make sure you check the weather before you get there, beforehand. That way you can plan accordingly. Check the weather. Once you get there, check out the lights, and then obviously the locations. The locations it's going to be the best thing that you can do for yourself. But in order to do a lot of this stuff, you have to make sure that you arrive with plenty of time to the destination that you're going to do. So this is basically my the way I arrive to a destination wedding. If it's an international wedding, I always ask to be there 48 to 36 hours before. The reasoning is because you just never know what can happen. I've had flights delayed, I've had flights canceled, and by giving myself a couple of days beforehand, that means that I can avoid a lot of that stuff, and this has definitely saved me. I had a wedding about 2 months ago where I had 3 canceled flights coming back from Argentina, and I actually arrived at the wedding 30 minutes before it started. Well, if I had not planned for any of that stuff, I mean, I probably would have not made it, because all those canceled flights, well, there's more and more people that started getting in line, and if I would have been towards the end, well, I probably would have not made it because they had to accommodate the ones that were before me. So that said, make sure that you give yourself plenty of time when you're traveling, especially if you're doing an international wedding. Arrive at airports on time. Give yourself plenty of time. The 2 hours, yeah, give yourself at least 2 hours. If you're going to do all of the paperwork, if you're going to do all that stuff, like I said, give yourself an extra hour to get there, and make sure that you have all that stuff. Double check everything before you head out to the airport. So things that you might need before you go. Obviously, your passport. Okay, your passport and a visa if needed. There's a lot of countries, make sure you check ahead of time. There's a lot of countries that don't ask for a visa. If you have an American passport, well, you don't have, for example, let's say you're traveling to Thailand. Well, you don't need a visa to go to Thailand. But if let's say you're a resident of the U.S. and you're not a citizen, and you have, a passport from another country, well, you're going to need a visa. So make sure that you double check any of that stuff beforehand. That's going to be, up to each country. So make sure you check your rules and your regulations before you go. Insurance. Insurance it's vital. I highly recommend that you have insurance, and make sure that your insurance covers your stuff outside of the U.S. That's one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself as a business, because if anything happens, well, at least you're covered. A good travel case. Find yourself a good travel case, a case that's going to hold up, to, I never check my equipment in, so that's not the case, but you still got to, drag it and pull it and do tons of stuff. They take a lot of reviews, so make sure you get a travel case that is good enough and is going to hold up to that stuff. A portal case is one of my favorites. That's the one that I've been using. I probably have hundreds of thousands of miles on that thing. I mean, it's ridiculous how good it is. And then the cool thing about it is that it kind of turns into a little dolly where I can put stuff on top and carry all that stuff. When I'm doing weddings where I don't need something like that, then I use my international one from Think Tank. It fits in overhead, and if it's 2 bodies, 6 lenses, 4 flashes, so it fits a ton of stuff. So that's another one, but there are plenty out there that you guys can use. And silica gel packets, I highly recommend this to put in your camera bag if you're shooting near an ocean, just because it keeps your equipment dry. And if there's any moisture or any other stuff building up, it's good to have it. It absorbs a lot of the moisture. So make sure you get some silica gel packets. The reusable kinds are the best. And then, but if you don't, what I started doing when I couldn't find a lot of the other ones, anytime that I bought shoes or anytime that I bought any of that stuff, they all come with those little bitty tiny silica packets. Well, that's what I used for a while. So, but those, they don't last very long. So get you the reusable kind. I think they're like $5 for 4 or something like that. Okay, let me see. I think we have, that's a quick overview of the stuff. So I will start off with questions. Ask away on questions that you guys might have. And then if you guys want to see, a wedding, we can go through a wedding as well for that I've shot, and then answer some questions while we go through it. So ask away.
Okay, just a reminder, you can type questions into either the chat box or the question box, or you can tweet them using the hashtag #PhotoBizLive, and Hiram will answer your questions. Okay, we got the first question is from Henry, and Henry asks, is a visa needed for a St. Thomas wedding?
As far, I've never done a St. Thomas wedding. I have had a couple of questions about shooting there, but I've never done a wedding there. I would double check anytime that you have. I'm sorry I couldn't answer, but all you have to do is type in. A lot of the Caribbean weddings are going to need a visa. I know, for example, like a lot of Costa Rica weddings. I know the Bahamas is getting pretty harsh on letting outside photographers shoot there. They're asking for fees. They're asking for all sorts of different things. So I'm not sure if they do, but I can definitely find out for you. But you can very easily just type it in and get the consulate to answer any of those questions.
Great, and he also has a second question, which is, how do we get the CBP forms?
The CBP forms, you can actually, there's a link on the blog post that I did for PhotoBiz. There's a link on there, or you can just go to the Department of Homeland Security and just type in CBP or CBP form. This is right here, CBP form 4457, and it'll pull up and you'll download it and make as many copies as you want. So either way, that's you can go to the Department of Homeland Security, to their website, or even just Google CBP form 4457, and I'm sure it'll take you to it. Or go to the link that I posted on the PhotoBiz webinar. Blog post.
Great, thank you for that, Hiram. Okay, we have our next question is from Honey. And Honey says, legalities and legal to work, Mexico and Jamaica, I've heard advice to go as a guest.
Listen, that is a really big thing going on right now. It's not necessarily, I don't do it. I don't do it because in situations where when it can get a little hairy about that, if they ask you why you're there, you say as a guest for what, or so on and so forth. The best way to do is, I always declare I'm a professional photographer, and I'm here to cover a wedding. Those are my exact words every time that they ask me. I don't offer this information, but if they do ask me, I am completely honest with them. they can't charge you or they can't take any taxes away because there wasn't any payment or any exchange of money in the country itself. Everything was paid ahead of time. My advice is to make sure that you declare that you're there and what you're there for, and as well as your I've done this in Jamaica, I've done this in Mexico plenty of times, and I've never had a problem. And yet, on the other hand, I've had people who have gone in as guests, and that's when they kind of get into problems a little bit, because you're basically caught in a lie.
Okay, thanks. And let's see, our next question from Henry says, what type of travel insurance do you recommend?
Well, it's not necessarily just travel insurance. It's actually the insurance that I have, my business insurance, that covers me. So if you currently have insurance, just call your insurance company and say, hey, am I covered outside of the U.S.? Is my equipment covered in case anything happens outside of the U.S. or while traveling? That is the main thing. There's a lot of companies out there that you can use, and that not one is better than the other. Just make sure that you ask the questions. Are you protected outside of the U.S.? 1. 2, are they going to cover your equipment completely, regarding all that stuff? The problem with this, where a lot of insurance kind of become a little bit of a problem, is because you have to have a report somehow, which is not necessarily a big thing, but there's a lot of countries where it's a hassle, a huge hassle to try to get reports and stuff like that. So try to, if anything does happen, knock on wood, but if anything does happen outside of the country, make sure you get as much information as you can of how it happened, when it happened, was it stolen, was it broken, I mean, what happened to the equipment. It's not necessarily your travel insurance, it's just your business insurance that you need to make sure that covers you completely when you travel, and that it covers you outside of the U.S.
Okay, so, and he's asking for clarification. He should ask his current insurance company for more information then?
Yeah, just ask your current business insurance, if they cover you outside of the U.S., because you're doing destination weddings, and then see if there's any limitations to it. And if there are way too many or they don't, then I suggest you find one that will cover you outside of the U.S. I know that there's a lot of people, and actually I just had this question, so I'm just going to share what I answered to them. I had a photographer not too long ago that contacted me about doing that he had his insurance or his equipment insured through his home insurance. That's fine, except that they cover you when your equipment's at home. If anytime you step outside of the house and your equipment comes with you or anything like that, well, they don't cover it. So make sure that you protect yourself. And my insurance, I have it in a completely independent, different company. It's not involved with my home insurance. It's not involved in any of that stuff. It's a completely separate insurance. So just ask your insurance company what the best thing to do. If they do cover it, if they don't cover it, then there are a ton of extremely good insurances out there. If you're a member of PPA, they have some amazing WPPI as well has suggestions. So there's some great companies out there.
Great, thanks for the questions, Henry. Those were good. Okay, and Honey asked for a clarification and said, okay, so we're allowed to work in Mexico and Jamaica since we're actually performing the service in their country.
Yes, yeah, you can work there. You can. There's no rules or regulations in there. If anything, if they do ask you, for tax or anything, or if you have to pay, it's not a fee. It's not a fine. It's not anything like that. It has happened, where they ask for a tax or something for working in the country. It's extremely, extremely, extremely rare. It has never happened to me. It has happened to one other photographer that I understood, and the best thing that he did was he paid it, and make sure you ask for a receipt or for some type of paperwork. Never give money away to anyone without receiving something in return, such paper, a paperwork, a receipt, anything like that. So, but yeah, it's not illegal. It's not illegal in most countries to perform, something like that. If you're going to be there for more than 90 days, well, then that's when you're going to need a work visa. Because if you're going to be in a country for more than 90 days, then you're going to get paid within that country. So that's where you'll need to, pay taxes, pay all that stuff. But if you're going to be there for 4 or 5 days, they really don't care. Mexico did away with their CBP forms because it was too much of a hassle for them trying to get visas for people that were coming in and out really quick. So now they just do the declaration form. That's their big concern.
Thank you, Hiram. Okay, Henry has another question.
Absolutely.
And he asks, is it safer to UPS your equipment to the location with package insurance or to take the chance on the airlines losing your bags?
Nope. I've never shipped anything, and I never check in my equipment. My equipment stays with me the whole time. I've never checked in any equipment. I've never had any problems. They've asked me a couple of times, oh, well, your bag's a little bit too big or it's a little bit too heavy. We need to check it. And as soon as you open that bag and they see that you have $30,000 worth of equipment, they want nothing to do with it. And they will hand it right back and be like, okay. I mean, it's gotten to the point where they've asked somebody in first class to move their baggage so that I can put my bag in there. Once they see what you're carrying, they really don't want to check it because they know that they're liable for if anything happens to it. So the majority of airlines are not going to. You can actually, I've done it before, where you can actually go up right before you guys start boarding and tell them, hey, I'm a photographer, I have this equipment. Is there any way? And a lot of times you'll get priority boarding to make sure that you get a space for your equipment. It doesn't always happen on every airline, but it has sometimes. If you have plenty of miles and you're a gold member, platinum member, make sure you use that so that you can get priority boarding and you get enough time to, but never, ever, 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 in any circumstance, check your equipment in. You just never know what can happen. If it stays with you, that's going to be the best thing. That's what I always do. I've never had a problem. And I've had friends of mine who have shipped their stuff and it was ruined on the shipping. I've had people who've checked in their stuff and their bags ended up in a completely different airport, a completely different city, a completely different country. So keep your equipment with you. That's the biggest thing. Keep your equipment with you. That's going to be the best advice that I can give you.
Okay, I have Honey says, I'm pretty good at not giving stuff away and I've been a stickler on my prices for a long time, but I'm finding a lot of photographers who don't charge extra. They just have the client pay for their trip.
This is it's a big, right now it's a big talk. I'm with you. I don't give anything away. I have my pricing for local weddings, and then I have my pricing for destination weddings. Obviously you have to take into account the days that you're going to be gone, and all that stuff. So in my destination packages, well, that's part of the pricing. I mean, good for you. That's the best thing that I can say. I mean, I don't think we should be giving anything away. I know a lot of photographers now are so into trying to do destination weddings that they're kind of selling themselves short. That does hurt the industry a little bit, but you know what? It hurts them more than anything in the long run, because people are going to talk. They're going to tell their friends, and then when their friends come, they're like, well, you so-and-so, you give so-and-so this price, so I'll pay for your trip and stuff like that. And it's going to be harder for them to break into actually doing destination weddings and actually make money off of it than anything. So I say keep doing what you're doing. You're doing it the right way. And also, it's not a vacation, guys. I mean, it's by any means. It's not. It's hard work. it's hard work. So make sure you get paid for the work that you do.
Okay, thank you, honey. Let's see. Oh, and she says here, so do you book your own airfare? Do you have a set price package and then you charge the travel on top of that? Do you bill them separately for the travel or do they book and pay? And then Henry also asked about how you price it. I think those two questions are related. So
Yeah, that was the trickiest way from when I started to kind of do the pricing. I do have two options. One of them, some clients, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to, they don't want to book anything. They want me to book everything. So if that's the case, then I invoice them for what it is. This is basically the stuff that I expect. Obviously, it's going to be the travel. It's going to be the hotel. Meals, I don't charge because even if I was here, I have to eat. So the meals, I don't do a per diem thing, but I do, if I need a rental car, if I need transportation, and if I need any of that stuff, all of that stuff is invoiced after the wedding most of the time, because that's when I'll get a full thing of everything. Everything else is paid up front, except for that stuff. My pricing does include, how long I'm going to be gone, and I do basically two types of collections. I do on destination, I do a one-day coverage, or I do weekend coverage. Those are the two things that the two collections that I have. But there are some clients that have plenty of miles and they want to book the stuff for me. That's fine. Sometimes I like that even better, because if anything goes wrong, I wash my hands and I'm like, hey, I didn't book any other stuff. But I do have my rules on what it is. For example, I want to be at least in the same hotel. That doesn't mean I need a luxury suite or anything. I just want to be in the same hotel as where everything's going to happen, so that I don't have to. And most of them will understand, because if you book at a different hotel, then they're going to have to provide transportation or rent a car or anything like that. So most of the time they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. So they'll put you in the same hotel. Same thing, on meals. The day of the wedding, I definitely have to eat, but that's the same here at local weddings. So I do ask for meals on the wedding day. Other than that, no. I like to, experience and go out and eat, whether it's street vendors or whatever it is, anytime that I go anywhere. So most of the time, I don't expect meals to be covered.
thank you. Great. And okay, if we have any more questions, you can go ahead and type them in, either under the question box or the chat box.
While we get some questions, I want to talk a little bit about when you get down to the venue or wherever the wedding is going to be. One of the first things that I do is I try to look for the planner or whoever's in charge of setting the day together. I want to get to know them as much. I want to get to know the vendors as much as I can, because that's a good rapport. If you have a good rapport with them, is more likely if they blog their stuff or they show off their stuff, they're going to show off your stuff, which is basically free advertisement. So I get to know them as much as I can. I ask them, hey, the stuff looks awesome. What the colors, they'll show you what they're going to do, so you kind of get a sense of kind of what they want. And I don't do a lot of details, except when I shoot details, I shoot it with a purpose. And it's not the purpose that I want to get blogged or I want to get published. No. When I shoot this stuff, I shoot it not only for the client, but I shoot it with the vendor in mind, that I can give these images to them later on, so that they can show me off, just like you would in the local wedding. But obviously, I haven't been able to talk to them as much as I would a local vendor. So as soon as I get there, besides the client, the vendor, the planner is the second most important person that I want to get to know. So make sure that when you guys travel outside of the country, and if you want to keep doing that, if you want to go back, it's an amazing wedding, build a good relationship with those vendors. It pays off.
Great answer. Thank you, Hiram. Let's see. Okay, and he has another question, and she says, I live in Canada, so people usually book winter getaway packages that are better deals, and then we're there for a week. So it looks like a vacation for us to the client. I feel like I wouldn't be able to escape them, and the week-long travel is definitely different than just 1 to 3 days. What would you do?
You know, if they book you for a week, you have to explain to them, if you're going to be gone for that long of a time, charge them for the time being. I guarantee you they will back down really quick. If you charge them a set amount per day because you're going to be gone that long, they're going to be like, well, why are you charging me this long? Well, because I am leaving this, my business unattended for this long, therefore I have to. I had two couples that try to do that because they were getting really good deals on traveling. I think I was leaving like on a Thursday and coming back the following Thursday, and it was like half the price. But when I told them, I was like, if I'm going to be this long, this is the, this is the price, because I have to charge you for those days that I'll be gone or that I'll be with you. So I was like, listen, I don't take this as a vacation. That's one of the reasons why I have, that my collections is being a one-day coverage or a weekend coverage. So once you kind of, once I explain that to them, they really understand, and they're like, oh, okay, well, you know what, it is a lot cheaper for us just to get him for the time that he's going to be working here, rather than, us trying to get the whole week because the flight's going to be cheaper. So that's how I dealt with it. Give it a try, see if that works. If that works for you, and explain to them that you don't take this as a vacation. Definitely not a vacation for you. So.
Thank you. Okay, and I have a question from Walter, and he asks, with weddings more than 50 but less than 100 miles, do you normally book hotels or just charge travel?
If it's 100 miles, I usually book a hotel because I don't want to be driving tired on the way back or anything like that. If it's 50 miles from where I live, it's not that big of a deal to me. I don't necessarily book a hotel for the night. I can definitely drive back. But on the travel, yeah, I definitely do charge travel just because gas is expensive right now. So I want to make sure that I'm covered for that. So, and also anytime that you travel, well, you kind of put in miles on your car, so that's also something that you have to take into account. I don't go crazy or anything on what I charge, but I do charge for the travel. But anything 100 miles and up, I do get a hotel. Anything less than that, I don't.
Okay, thank you, Walter. Let's see, do we have any more questions for Hiram? I think we have a question coming in from Honey, and she's still typing. So, okay, she says, I've had my business for 12 years, but to break into destination weddings, any tips for breaking into that market?
If you've done destination weddings, blog your destination weddings. One of the things that you can do is place advertisement or advertise yourself as a destination photographer. That's the best thing, especially right now. With the web and everything, it's so much easier to brand yourself a certain way. As a destination wedding and stuff like that. Now, also make sure that if you have a great business, if you're happy with the business, what you're doing in your business locally, don't worry too much about getting destination weddings or anything like that. The biggest thing and the biggest concern that I have with a lot of photographers that want to break into the destination is that they're doing it for the wrong reason. A lot of them that I've talked to see it as a vacation, as a fun. Okay, well, you're shooting at the beach, you're shooting here, you're shooting there. It's difficult. First you're shooting in areas where you're not familiar with, one, which can also be fun. But two, you have to take into account travel. You have to take into account if anything happens to your equipment. Have to take into account the time that you spent with a lot in a lot of these situations. So if you want to break into the market, brand yourself as the destination wedding photographer. If you've done destination weddings, then blog those. You know, there's not, honestly, there's not a magic word, and if there is, and if I find it, I will be an absolute millionaire. But there's not necessarily a magic potion or a way to do it, you know, except hard work and trying to build your brand as a destination photographer.
Great, thank you. Okay, and Mulder's question is, with travel, do you charge per mile or a set fee?
No, I charge per mile. I charge $1.10 per mile. That's more than enough from where I'm going. Some people think it's really inexpensive, but it's really not that big of a deal. So, but that's what I charge. I don't have like a set. I charge per mile.
Okay, thanks. And let's see, next question. And he asks, did you decide to dedicate to being a destination wedding photographer?
No, I actually I didn't. I wasn't looking for doing destination. I just wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to cover weddings. That was the main thing for me. The destination part kind of came because I started doing that. I started, you know, I got the first destination wedding that I actually shot. I was actually a guest photographer for a friend of mine who was doing a wedding, and you know, I blogged that one. Somebody liked it. They hired me to do a destination wedding, and it just kind of, you know, snowballed from there a little bit. This year, you know, I have a 2-year-old, and I have another one on the way. And one of the things that I saw last year, I mean, last year I traveled 128,000 miles. I put in between August and October. I mean, I saw my girls a week and a half, something like that. So it's very tough. It's very, very, very tough. And when I'm coming home and my daughter, you know, wants to talk to the laptop, it kind of, you know, it kind of put her things into perspective about, you know, what you want to do. You know, so like I said, it's very difficult doing but if you do it for something that you love and your family supports you, fantastic. It's awesome. But you know, sometimes it's make sure that it's something that you really do want to do, because it is difficult. But I personally didn't brand. I didn't start off with a mentality of being a destination wedding photographer. I just wanted to be a wedding photographer, and then things just kind of worked themselves out, and I started working that area because I was getting approached by couples that wanted to do destination weddings.
Okay, and our next question from Henry. He says, I have a Disney wedding next year, and the bride is providing flight, hotel, and free Disney tickets for the wife and I. Other than car rental, what would I charge for travel?
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I love it when clients do that. When clients do that, you really know and that they really understand you, that you do have a family, that you do. I have a few clients that have done that, that have actually paid extra without me asking. It's not part of the deal. It's not anything. They invite my family with. So that's amazing. That means that you have an amazing relationship with your clients, which is something that I always try to have. It makes it a lot easier. So congratulations on that. In those situations, honestly, I'm very, very forgiving. I would, if it was just me, I wouldn't charge probably anything extra besides the car rental, because they kind of went out of the way, whether it was a gift to them or whether it wasn't, but they thought about providing stuff for your family, and to me that goes a long way. You know, that's extremely flattering. So in my personal opinion, you know, if that was my wedding, I would just, you know, give the stuff, you know, that's going to be anything extra for me, which is going to be like car rental and anything like that. So, you know, I don't know how else to answer it except the way I would I would do the situation or how I would address it.
Okay, any more questions? Oh, this is a good question. Henry says, what about safety in third world countries where they aren't safe? How do we get updates?
Depends on where you're going. If I've been approached about doing weddings in areas where it wasn't safe, and I turn them down. Honestly, to me, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. I do try to help the couples in finding a photographer that will do it, whether a local photographer for them or if they want to hire somebody else. I have a lot of friends that I will email and I will send them to and try to help them as much. But to me, if safety is going to be an issue or if it's something that I'm kind of questioning, I just don't take it. There's different ways to find information. Like I said, the best thing, guys, your best friend is going to be consulates. Go to the consulates of the country that you're going and ask questions. But if now we do understand, for example, that the media will blow things out of proportion. Last few years, Mexico, they painted as, being a World War III country, where everything and everyone's dying, and it's not that way at all. There were a lot of bad things happening, but it was in very localized areas. So do get your information, make sure the information is correct and stuff like that. But if you know that it's a dangerous country, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Just, think of yourself and think of your safety first of all. And to me, I have just turned them down.
Great. Okay, and our next question, Honey says, based on what you just said about the vacation thing, mixed with not treating it like a vacation, what if they pay for travel for myself and husband during the winter, and then we don't charge extra? She also says, thank you for the advice and congrats on your new baby on the way.
All right. Well, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty there, so for those of you who are still here, I was answering Honey's question, I believe, on being what to do if they paid for your spouse or such. Like I said, on the question that I was answering before, when it comes to that and they treat my family and without me asking or anything like that, hey, just in a personal level, I take that as an extreme flattery, because obviously they respect you as a family person, and they want to pay. So it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to do, how you want to treat it. Still, if they're going to keep me away from my business for this long, it's one of those things where, but if you're going to use it as a vacation, if you and your spouse are going to have fun, then treat it as such, and don't charge anything extra. But if you're going there for work and work alone, then it's definitely a business trip. So you might want to just treat it as such and get in and get out, like you would any other wedding.
A second question here, Hiram. Do you ever bring second shooters?
That I do, but not all of the time. They do understand that if I do have a second shooter, it's additional cost. So it's going to be 2 plane tickets, 2 hotels, 2. So most of the time, when they do ask for a second shooter or whatnot, I do tell them yes, but it's extra. It's going to be this much extra, which most of the time, it's what I would pay, what I pay my guest photographer, my second shooters, and then everything else is going to be additional, which is going to be hotels, it's going to be all of that stuff. So it's not common when I do a destination wedding to bring a second shooter if it's going to be a huge wedding. For example, and I think what I'm going to do is maybe we'll do a third part to doing a destination wedding, a large destination wedding, on this situation. For example, on the next one that we can talk about, doing this destination wedding for local clients. A lot of my clients are not are residents of the country that I'm shooting with. For example, whether they're Mexico, they're Europe, or whatever, they live in that country. So sometimes those things do change a little bit as well, because you do have to pay taxes because the money exchange was done within, whether if you're in Spain and they paid in euro, and such things like that. So you guys let me know if you want to do that on a for a different webinar. That's a completely different one. But in those situations, though, if I do have, and it's going to be a large wedding, what I do is I contact local photographers from there, and there's easy. I mean, there's from forums. There's I'm a member of Fearless Photographers, and they have this thing that's called Fearless Seconds, where you can type in that you need a second shooter, and I've had great response with local people from that area that will contact me about second shooting. So I will hire somebody that's local. And most of the time, not necessarily for shooting, but just to help me out, whether it's with equipment or anything like that. So, but for most destination weddings, for example, Americans, or such that go, or even other people that go to Mexico, I've had couples that were not necessarily Americans, they were Canadian, and such. A lot of their weddings are very small, so I can do it by myself, no problem.
Well, it looks like that's all the questions we've gotten so far, Hiram. Is there anything else you wanted to cover today?
No, I think we're good. If there are any questions or anything like that, then you guys can definitely contact me and send me your questions at info@hiramtrillo.com for anything that you guys have. If anyone's also, you guys can contact PhotoBiz if there's something that you guys want to hear about. They're really awesome about putting these great webinars together, and they have a ton of amazing photographers that are willing to share with all of you. And if you guys want me to talk about something else, don't hesitate to contact them and ask what you guys want to hear about at any time. So thank you guys so much. I know this was a little bit of impromptu, and that was my fault. But like I said, if you guys have any questions or anything, or if you guys want to hear about anything else, right now I'm actually starting my own my tour for workshops. So if you guys ever are interested in doing any workshops, feel free to contact me. If you guys want to host it, feel free to contact me, info@hiramtrillo.com. And hopefully I get to meet a lot of you guys soon.
Thank you so much, Hiram, and thank you everyone for your great questions. We did take a recording of today's webinar. Hopefully, with the momentary shutdown, we will be able to post it later on our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to check out our blog and watch your email updates for future webinars. We've got another great webinar next Tuesday, which is July 9th, and that's going to be about ways to update your site with one of our passionate support team members, Vance. Thank you again so much, Hiram. That concludes the episode of PhotoBiz Live. Have a great day, everyone.